Fredrik, Phil, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is going to be super fun. So, Fredrik, you and I chatted before on the Super Managers podcast, and now we've morphed into this new way. But for everybody who doesn't know about Superside, which is your company, it's a really cool company. You want to tell us about like what you guys do, the scale of Superside, and how long you've been running it.
Absolutely. So we're an AI-powered creative services company. We help our customers with design, creative, advertising, video production. We work with some of the largest companies in the world, primarily enterprise technology companies in the US, like Meta, Google, Amazon, Salesforce, and many others. We are 750 people in 65 different countries, fully remote, and we've been doing it for around 9 years.
Amazing. Very, very cool. Yeah. Did you say 65 different countries?
I think so. Yeah, we sort of struggle to keep full track, but it changes every week, but around that level.
I mean, that's so many countries that it just makes me think, do you have like a board where you're like, we don't have anyone there yet. Like, let's make sure for this other role. It almost seems like but so that's really cool. I mean, you guys are hiring all over. Obviously, technology enables that a lot, and I'm kind of curious about that too. And today, you also invited Phil on the show, and so obviously, Fredrik, you're founder, CEO. Phil, hi. Who are you?
Hi. I'm Phil. Hired by Fredrik, and I'm the director of Generative AI Excellence. And what that essentially means is I've been charged with essentially the transformation of our business with generative AI tools, adoption, workflows, how we apply it to our customers, lots of research, lots of trying to keep up with the constant news and filter out what's useful and apply it to the work. And it's never quiet at the moment. That's what I can say.
Oh my God. Like I envy you, Phil, because your job is full time to keep track of what's going on with AI. And I feel like the rest of us, a lot of us are just trying to spend an hour here and there. And there's just so much. It's crazy. But I'm very curious about this role, because I actually think that this is something that I was saying to a lot of my peers, that we're going to enter a world where, every company's going to need a head of AI, because this stuff is just so transformative. It's moving so fast. So, Fredrik, maybe I can ask you, like, how did you even decide that you need to hire for this role? How did you find Phil? Like, what was kind of going through your head? And maybe just like walk me through like how you also transformed the company too, right? Because you guys are like very heavily into using AI in your product and services. So maybe just like walk me through your journey.
Absolutely. I mean, we're a tech-enabled services company. We've been that since the start, and always tried to build technology to automate things and make our delivery to our clients faster, more seamless, etc. Reduce our overhead. And we actually hired Phil as a creative technologist in November of 2022 or around that time. Correct me if I'm wrong, Phil. And this was just about exactly the time when DALL came out, and we were sort of just like, wow, this stuff is real, like we'd been sitting on the sidelines of this AI thing for a long time. Sam Altman was our seed round investor. And
oh, really? I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah, we did Y Combinator back in 2016 as a group partner. Fantastic experience. So he led the round, and then a couple months after, he just kind of went off and did this whole OpenAI thing. And for the longest time, we were just like, what the hell is this guy doing, playing Dota 2 all night with a bot? Like, what's the point of this? Like, but suddenly it was just like starting to get really interesting, right? And I'm sure they had a good plan all along. And I think the moment we understood it was real was the launch of DALL, and we sort of just like, hey, what can we do really quickly to get into this? Obviously, nobody in the world really knew anything about AI at this point. So everyone started on a blank slate, and we thought who in our company or elsewhere would be best positioned to help start our own transformation. We knew we sort of needed to transform our own company, and it seemed obvious to us that this sort of role of creative technologist was probably best suited, because you need to combine, some understanding of the creative field and some understanding of technology. And I think still the best recruitment strategy for AI people in designing creative is to hire creative technologists. And Phil sort of overnight became an AI expert, and spent the last, 2.5, 3 years just working 120% on this.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, wow, I mean, I know you saw DALL, but a lot of us saw DALL, and to me, I was like, this is kind of cool. Seems like a toy a little bit, But yeah, so what made you think, like, how did you end up seeing that it was more than just that? Because yeah, so what was it for you that you're like, oh my God, this is actually really big, and this is going to change things?
I mean, I think we see a lot of projects, right? We see a few thousand projects every month, and a lot of those projects aren't necessarily insanely complex. Some of them are, and a lot of the kind of groundwork to develop it is very complex. But a lot of work in a traditional creative agency, design agency, isn't necessarily that complex. Like what we're going to show today, for example, generating a large amount of assets, based on our understanding of the projects that kind of make up the whole industry, feels like pretty ripe for AI automation. And so it sort of fit very easily into our mental model of the world. And even though it wasn't perfect at the time, it was enough for us to be quite convinced and already start working on it full steam.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So, I mean, amazing. So then, Phil, you started in this role. I mean, that's right around the time that I think ChatGPT also, or at least 3.5 or whatever that first one that got a lot of attention came out. So, what has it been like? So, I mean, where did you start? Maybe you can walk us through like some of the ways that Superside changed as a company, the way it does work as a result of AI. So, some of the initiatives you started, how did you do it? Was there resistance? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So just prior to joining Superside, the 6 month, 1 year prior, I ran an innovation team, and it was certainly like applied research, like direct application is nearly, I think it's if it is the best way, it's the only really the way I know of how to use things is to try and test them in the wild. And to kind of echo like Fredrik's point, like I joined at maybe just the inflection point where it suddenly permeated the public consciousness. And the way that we approached it was quite similar to any other like emerging technology. And to start off with, it was two of us. So Alex, who still works in my team, him and I, what we called shadow projects at that time. So business was continuing as usual. And because we are quite tech enabled, we have this bird's eye visibility where we can kind of go in. We own Superspace, own and operate and run and develop Superspace, which is our platform where our customers interact with us. So as Fredrik said, we can see what's going on and go, okay, let's test some hypotheses. Like let's say, digital ads or illustration or kind of brand photography or branding. Let's just set up some Zapier automations that will like ping us when something comes in, and we just try and grab it. And concurrently to the creative team working, we would just take whichever tool or whichever approach was like available at that moment and either try or recreate or just emulate the human process that was happening, and then see if we can get anywhere close. Because at the time, it was not self-evident that you could create brand quality work that customers would see and feedback on and want to change and publish. And there's a very, very large gap between design, number one, and art, but also like commercial design is not done in a vacuum. It has to be able to be put in front of a client that will have a whole host of other things that they want to do with it. So what we did is kind of create this. It wasn't like subversive, but it was under the radar program to test our hypotheses. Like we'd just say, like, can we do these things? Like we know DALL can create this kind of relatively average, strange art, and Midjourney was coming out at that time as well. And there's, other Stable Diffusion and GPT 3.5. Like, can GPT 3.5 emulate copywriting in a brand's voice? Like, how do we get it to do that? And this was just pre-product for most people. There's now like product layers, and there's that are much more kind of niched down into doing these things. But we would just then test that, and then that would led to a relative decision gate in the business, which we took to Fredrik. Was like, here's like some body of evidence to say, these things have like been working. We've been putting some stuff in front of customers. We've been A/B testing it with customers. We've been gathering sentiment. We've been seeing like what kind of talent is most attuned to this kind of new way of working as well, because it's not necessarily entirely correlated, like the most senior you are, like to the most adaptable you'll be. And like there's just so many vectors and dimensions that we had to try and see. But quite fortunately, the position that we're in as a business is that venture-backed, startup-esque in terms of our ethos, very fast-moving, quite low regulation in terms of how we do things internally. Then we went from kind of theory and hypothesis to practice and application to scale quite quickly with only a couple of decision gates rather than committees and like reviews. And like there was a small subset of us reporting basically directly to leadership and saying like, here's what we got. And then Fredrik made some, pretty key decisions of generally the normal thing that he will say to us is like, make it bigger and move it faster like now. And that has continued to have like compounding effects about how we've just got to this pretty requisite scale, size, and expertise in application.
Oh, that's so cool. I have so many kind of follow-up questions. So you started out with this idea that we're just going to automate the process stuff, like the basic things, project comes in, start there. And then you're like, well, can we actually use it in the design work process? And then as you were creating those sorts of things, you were A/B testing it, putting different versions in front of clients. And then that was kind of your way to battle test it, to make sure that the clients actually preferred some of the work that did use AI in the back end. I think that's super clever. The thing that you kind of mentioned in passing, and I'm curious to dig in on and get both your perspectives on this, which is the type of talent that you need to do this work, because I think this is actually a really big thing. What I have also noticed, and what I've heard from other folks is, sometimes the problem is the more of an expert you are in a given field, the more resistant you are to using AI tools. I'm curious to get your perspective, and like, what does that mean for hiring? Like, has this changed, who you guys look out for to even bring onto the team?
I'm going to jump in on that one. I obviously love Fredrik's opinion as well. I think I'm quite a good case study of not being an expert in some ways. So I don't really have this kind of sunk cost fallacy so I, as a creative technologist, like, pretty T-shaped skill set, which means the way I maybe in the British tone would describe it is like average developer, average designer, average creative, like toe to toe, people in my team, people in the business. You put me like up against our most unbelievable design directors, or obviously all of our wonderful engineers. Couldn't compete against them. I've got a very broad skill set, which means though, I have found AIs to be this like genuine amplification of like the things that I have in my head, I can now execute and do. It doesn't feel as kind of as much of an affront to my identity, because my identity is about learning and application and moving the frontier forward. I'm not worried about how we do that as much. So for me, I would say it has been such an enabler of allowing me to move all the things that I want to move forward much quicker at better fidelity. My design is better, my creative is better, my technology is better. I can, like, the whole vibe coding movement in the last 3 months is just like absolutely, completely what I love. And, so I think there is this redefinition of like, what do you need and want when it comes to talent? Because maybe someone that is like 20 years deep ML would have quite different perspectives on generative AI because they've gone through huge amounts of pain. There's people that have been like working in After Effects and Blender that have had that software crash on them 30,000 different times, and it's kind of really embedded into their identities. For me, it's less so. I'm looking for outcomes rather than necessarily that craft is my entire process. And then the other thing, just quickly on it, is when I've hired, because after that decision gate that we were like, let's scale it, I had to do quite a lot of hiring. There are some kind of leading indicators, I think, of like what makes someone quite adept and adaptable to it. And that, some sort of the like kind of psychometric testings can kind of reveal if someone has, quite a good, logical brain, but also like is quite a divergent thinker just in general, that they are quite willing to like self-disrupt, and they have quite a high tolerance for ambiguity as well. That is one like area that if someone thrives in that ambiguity, that is what the environment is at the moment. There is not all of the playbooks ready. There are not all of the steps to follow. And then secondly, on that is people that are truly creative is within our field. And I'm not saying like, not pixel pushing, people that have strategy, have ideas, have taste, have discernment. There is 2 people in this business that are like, I think are just our absolute rock stars, the best of the best of the best. And for different reasons. Bianca is like a kind of creative director, art director, probably she would admit, not the best designer, but it's made her into this kind of all-round like visual communicator. Like, she's unbelievable with it now. And Julio, who I work with, unbelievable designer, like probably the best designer I know, but now can write copy and can do, because they kind of augment their areas around them. So there are some signals of like what it, people that are adaptable to it. But I do not think it's a done deal yet, in terms of we know for sure who this rockstar talent is of the future. But there are some things that are starting to show.
Yeah, Fredrik, what do you think? Has it changed who you look for, or like, any guidelines you give for, people and recruitment within the company, or what kind of people you guys look for? Or like, are you able to, and was it easy to culturally change the whole company around, we're going to use AI for everything, and we're going to change the way that we work?
So I think in the start, it wasn't really possible to hire for AI, like very hard to predict, maybe this person is so curious, can like figure it out for themselves. At this point, 2.5 years in, it's much easier, right? Because now everyone's had time to learn. And so when we're hiring now, it's like, okay, just show us some of the AI stuff that you've made, and is it cool or is it not cool? And it's more of a portfolio kind of thing, which makes it a lot easier to hire today. I'll say it's also pretty different across sort of the various use cases that we're delivering on, right? Like at one end of the spectrum, we're sort of doing large scale digital transformations of companies and kind of helping them grow faster using AI, transforming their kind of creative departments. And those type of deliveries is sort of a mix of management consulting and creative technology, AI technology, and standard kind of brand strategies, right? So that's very different from video production, or it's very different from brand design, and so it plays out a little bit different in each domain. The domain where we feel it's probably changing the most is probably video production, and probably why Hollywood is the place where there's most opposition to AI. I think the era of this 15, 20 person teams to do a 30-second TV spot is definitely gone, and the delivery model for video projects in general will look very, very different. Much more technical, much more engineering heavy, and to Phil's point, earlier, a lot sort of fewer, more generalist roles. Video is also the area which is by far most costly, right? And where we feel that the opportunity to cut cost and deliver the same outcome is essentially the greatest. Like we're probably talking 80-90% for cost reduction for comparable quality on video, and also enabling some pretty amazing new applications, right? Like a lot of the time in AI, there's a lot of talk about cutting cost and automation and so on, but there's also all these new amazing opportunities. And part of what we're going to show today is about unlocking possibilities rather than kind of cutting cost.
Yeah, totally. I think like that's a key point, because it's not really about necessarily cutting costs. It's what if you took the same cost, but you were able to produce something that's like so much better. Like at the end of the day, all the work that we're doing is we're just trying to create like really great outcomes. And if the outcomes can be better, but it takes the same time or it takes the same cost, like that's still a huge win. But it turns out you can obviously also bring efficiencies too. So, normally I would now shift to asking you all about how AI has impacted you personally. But since we've been talking about, all the, how this has transformed the way that you guys deliver work at Superside, I'd love to just jump into the demo. I know Phil's put together some stuff, and would love to see it in action.
Okay. So this won't be a presentation, but I'm just going to go through what I think we're going to go through. And I'm going to give the caveat up front. This is a live demo, and I've put it together, but it could go in different directions. So there's a little bit of jeopardy here for us. So hopefully this is going to go in the right direction. We have a concept of trying to go from a brief to a draft in the most effective way possible. And there's some reasons for that. One is just like kind of speed of execution is generally something that delights customers. If we can respond quicker, be more adaptable to their needs, like the most positive things kind of come out from having that sort of relationship. And what we also, the framing of the word draft, I think also is quite useful when it comes to AI. So like brief to final asset with absolutely no human review changes. It's not necessarily something we want to aim for, because some of the special sauce and some of the reason that someone would come to a company like ours versus going, and just tinkering in Canva is the creative quality that you get in that last mile, in that last 10%. And that last 10% is like really hard to do, both from a human perspective and from a technological perspective. So we're going to do a couple of things. Firstly, not automation. So if we receive a brief from a client, we want to do a little bit of exploration. So I want to personally figure out composition or color or typography or what's the message or what's the kind of core concept. So those things I rarely we are trying to like create scale instantly. Sometimes we're trying to like hone in on what's the idea. And this is going to be quite a simple idea. It's going to be some digital ads for a client, and it's going to be quite a simple thing. We're not trying to create a Pixar movie right now, just some kind of quite functional assets that customers need all of the time. We're going to show that like really briefly in the old way, which is like the mid-journey way. And it's not actually the old way. It's not I'm going to go do a photo shoot and I'm going to go take the pictures and I'm going to take it to Photoshop and I'm going to color correct it. I'm going to show you the 1 year ago AI version of this. And then I'm going to move into like what we currently, what's more towards what we're currently doing. That is
because the old way is at this point it's ancient. So this is that's really cool that you're showing us, calling the old way the 1 year ago way. So that's cool.
Yeah, we've actually kind of started to figure this out internally. We're having to start to benchmark against our AI work for metrics rather than our traditional work, and that's like this kind of compounding effect of efficiencies. And like once we start to get to agentic automation, we have to think in even faster terms than we were previously, rather than just opening up tools and just opening up different browser windows. So we'll look at what like a custom model for a product can do, so like a custom image model, and then some agentic automation. So AI understanding the brief that the customer's giving us and then unpacking that into tasks that can be executed like incredibly quickly. And then, as Fredrik said, like the biggest opportunity in this space is with things that move. I'll show a little bit of that at the end, but I won't do it at full scale because I just don't want to burn all the GPUs in the world to the ground just for the sake of a demo. But we'll show a little things that move at the end. So this is just like to be clear on like this is how work gets done.
And Phil, can you zoom in a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I'll zoom in a little bit. Yeah. So this, just for like clarity, is if I'm a client, and whether this is like writing this into ChatGPT to help them form a brief, or we've got some AI-powered briefing platforms, but I'm just using the form here. Like a client will interact with Superside in multiple different ways. They can be on Slack or on a call or through our briefing system. But let's just say a client needs something done, and they want to create a single channel, like paid campaign. I say it's just for display ads that they want to get out there for their new product that's launching. They want to have quite a lot of creative diversification with that. So they maybe want different headlines, different variants, different sizes. And this is how we would receive, a brief. And maybe we'd go back and forth with the client, but they will just write us some natural language. And if we know what the product is, we have these shoes. Let's say this is like some lay flat that's been done in the studio. They send us these things. They want to then turn this into like more of a lifestyle style campaign or something that will perform. And one way that I would then previously would have tried to have done it is then taking, this as an image reference and taking it over to Midjourney. And so if I was taking this over to Midjourney, I've got it already here. I'd use that as the image prompt. And I've got a prompt which I'm going to use in the old way and the new way, just to make sure it's kind of like semi-fair. So I can prompt in to say, like, I want to have an overhead angle of someone jumping in these shoes. And I want it to be set against like quite a bright, a vibrant blue sky. And, can you use the shoe that the client has, supplied to us? And can you, Midjourney here, can you try and create a composition, a photograph of someone doing that? And so, okay. Right. So it's understood the prompt.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's to the point that it's something. But if we go back to the shoe itself, it's not the shoe. It's not the product. It's not the stitching, the geometry, the texture. It's not the product. But relatively, I could then take this and go over to Photoshop, and I could bash it together. I could do some in painting or some out painting. But there are just some much more streamlined ways now of doing this.
Yeah, totally. Like it seems like, in the old way that you're calling the old way, this would be really good for ideation, maybe, right? Like you could produce a bunch of different concepts and if all it did was help you choose the right concept, then you can, take it to Photoshop and
100%.
Elsewhere and polish it. And
agreed. Yeah. And this is like creative variation. I can just keep on like figuring some stuff out. I could tweak the prompt, change the language, change the syntax, start to figure out what am I trying to see that will be useful for this brief that the client has given us. Like what do they really want? So I've got the product, and I've been doing some stuff in Midjourney. So hold on, let me just pull out this one. There we go. So what we've done, I'm going to just show here. Ready. What we've done is we've taken this data set. So this is the product images that they've given us. And we've run a fine-tuning process to bake this into an image model. And then once we've baked it into the image model, we have some distribution that we've made. So we can start to work with that model just directly in Figma, which is where we work. So I think within our Figma instance, across our customers and ourselves, we have about 2,800 users across, collaborating, working together in Figma. A lot of our customers, big tech customers, they work in Figma with us. So it's like this natural collaboration. So we have this tendency and it's maybe a bit of a bias for me because I'm just such a fanboy, that we build into Figma because we designers love being there. So that's something that we do. So I've got this Figma plugin that we've done, which is connected to our model inference, and I can paste in again that same prompt. And one thing that about our particular image generation, it's slightly slower. Our inference speed is slightly slower, but I think our quality is higher. So like there's this trade-off between, the steps that the inference is going through to like how quick it is, and maybe we can do some optimization here. But this is mainly to enable creative exploration. Like, how do I have my layout for my brand? Maybe I want to do a headline, or maybe I want to come up with some copy, and I might use ChatGPT to do that. But like, I've got some ideas, I'll start to go, great, like maybe there's a call to action, there's something that's going to like entice people in. But now I've got this image where I'm like, okay, that is the shoe, that is the geometry, that is the product.
Yeah, that looks super nice.
It is the shoe. It is the shoe. And there's lots of different, we could keep going all the way through this. And, what I would do here is I'll be figuring out like what works, both for the concept.
I just have to say that this is incredible in the sense that, this is not a real person that you necessarily hired to put on this shoe, but you have, the person's wearing the shoe.
Person's wearing the shoe, and we can do like multiple different things with this person wearing the shoe. Or maybe actually we want to do something more studio-like, and do we want something that's a bit cleaner? I actually think this works better with the composition and the color, with the textures in the layout, and like it does punch in a little bit more. And there's different things that I could do just even directly within Figma now, where I can go actually change the floor to grass under the shoe. And like Figma has actually, this is today. This is how quickly things move. Figma today have released this feature because this is based off OpenAI's new image model, which they've just released in the API yesterday. So this is like completely fresh fast. That I can do image processing and image editing directly natively in Figma. So I've had my asset creation within Figma. I can then do editing in it. And this is how quickly these things move. And I've just now got this directly in here. So let's imagine that we have landed on something. We've landed on a prompt formula. We've landed on something that, I'm kind of cool with this. And I want to then see much more variation. And I don't want to sit here for like hours now typing out prompts. Firstly, there's a couple of things I can do. I can use our AI prompt enhancement, so it can then help me prompt itself. And we've found that through the creative processes. People don't love prompting. So like any tools that we can help them to rewrite and apply better prompt formulas and kind of better prompt engineering, we really try to do this. But what I can do next is I can then go, this is less pretty, but quite functional, that I can basically take the model, and we're building some different product layers around this at the moment.
What is this you're showing this? What is this product? Is this something internally developed?
No, this is like general node-based kind of editing. We're using, this is the easiest way, instead of me showing this as code, is for me to show it as nodes. But this is on top of DALL, which kind of hosts the models for inference for us. It's one of the model inference providers that we have. So I have the model. I have the prompt of the things that I liked before, like here. But what I want it to do is then chain in different agents or different LLMs to rewrite these prompts for me continuously. And then I want to do the same inference, the same image generation, but in bulk. I just wanted to do loads of them. So I can then just run this automation where it will then come up with some prompts for me. Then it will feed those prompts into the next step. That next step will do image generation. I've actually turned it off because I was kept on burning through like hundreds of dollars of credits. When we could then chain video into the end of this. So once it's created the image, it can then create the video. But I don't want to, just for like clarity, I don't want to do this until I've done this. I want to figure things out first, find the areas I want to play, Then I want to move to something that it will do work for me. And then when I get to this point, it should just then propagate a bunch of images here and just like bulk generate all the images that I need for this. So I can then be like, it is the prompt transformation has happened.
Beautiful images too. I mean, these are like, they look super. I mean, I'm just looking at this and thinking, wow.
So this is kind of like where things are now in terms of, I would say we have moved past like the uncanny valley areas, and we've moved past this thing of like AI slop in that sort of conversation, that to the point where we're creating like outcomes here that are useful. So I've got from my automation.
I mean, this is crazy. That image on the ice, that looks incredible.
It's cool, isn't it? Yeah. So I've got, I've come up with some ideas. I've done some bulk generation, but if we kind of go back actually, just quickly to this, now I've got a bunch of images and this layout. I need to actually go back to the brief, and the client wants different headlines, and they want different sizes, and they want different options. So this is our newer mechanism, which we call brief to draft. And this pulls in the brief allocated to me as the creative directly from Superspace. I can then use another agent to analyze that brief and turn it into tasks that can be executed within my Figma instance. So it is looking at this brief. It's got the images that we've just generated here, and it's going to do the rewriting of the copy for me. So I've got our kind of 50% off, 100% drip, but I'm like 50% off style, or drip deals, or half price swag, or big, like some iterations on like what the headline should be for this ad. It also understands that the customer has asked for it in different sizes for their ads that they can actually publish. So this was within the brief, but it's taking that. So I've analyzed the brief, what the clients asked for. The agent has turned the brief into deliverables, which is generally like what a project manager would do, but the agent's done that for us, turned it into something that we can execute. The cool thing is it can also just go and execute it. So I'm just going to hit apply. And it's now made this thing called generated one over here. Let's get rid of this. Let me just make this layout. This is the one thing we haven't fixed yet, is that it doesn't propagate the layout. It does it all in one line. I'm just going to do a quick little bit of auto layout in Figma to make it easier for me to see. Okay. I now have my images and my text and my sizes.
That's super cool.
All propagated together in terms of variations, sizes, diversification, and I can keep going. I don't know how many we've made. Let me just do a quick check of how many we've made in this. 330 assets within that period of time.
That's insane. I look at this and I'm like, no human can ever compete with this. It's over.
Well, it's not maybe over, because where the human comes in is actually, hey, hold on. I think this looks good. Oh God, it's going to crash my computer because it's so many images. I think this looks good, but I actually don't quite like the line break here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
AI is not super good at understanding that, but this is where the cool thing is. I'm in Figma. I can just come in. Yeah, I prefer that. I can just change this natively in it. I actually can just come in and just change the typography to be, oh, that's way too big. That. I can do the review. I can do the tweaks. It's also a component within Figma, so I can then resync the component and it will sync across all of the frames. Because I'm building on top of the awesome stuff in Figma, collaboration, component libraries, design systems, dev mode, all of the things that are there. I don't need to worry about pixel level control because I've got pixel level control. We're building the agents that work in Figma. And then the final part is if I took, this, and There is automated ways of doing this, but I'll just do it manually for now, just so we can show the manual process of one. Let me just put another one here.
Yeah, and
So-
as you're showing this, the thing that doesn't change, and you kind of talked about this in the beginning, is that, having taste, having really good judgment, being very creative. Like
Yep.
these are functions that are still necessary. But
Yep.
the busy work stuff, that starts to go away.
100%. So why this one's generating, I had one prepared because sometimes Runway is a little bit slower. I fully agree with what you're saying. Like, firstly, image to video is a little bit of a roll of the dice. So I'm the one that has to change. I'm the one that has to say, like, this is right or wrong. Sometimes what's best to do is just generate loads and cherry pick. But like this will happen. But this one here, I think I've got it in a larger size.
Oh, wow.
This is Runway that has animated those shoes on that ice with the smoke to make
so
it
cool.
into a lovely little 5-second ad that can be done.
That's beautiful. I want to buy these shoes.
So yeah, good.
This is awesome. It works.
That showed the upfront concept worked, right? Like, and that's the thing. So that's a bit of a vignette. Like, this is one slice of the business. There's different things for longer form video. There's talking heads video. There's different things in 3D and AR and web design. And one thing that's wonderful for me, for my kind of maybe slightly overactive brain and imagination, is that Superside does every kind of creative. And so we are continuously looking at every single thing that we can do. And for ads, what I would love our business to focus on is, like, we have the best creative talent and we create a way that execution is instant, but our ideas are the things that set us apart. Like, I think we're well on the way to that.
Yeah, this is super cool. I mean, as I'm looking at this, it just expands the things that are possible. Like, maybe one day we're in a place where the ads that I see are going to be customized towards me. Like, it's one thing for the copy to be customized, but if you can show it in basically just create different imagery or videos that might be more appealing to me. I mean, AI starts to make that kind of thing also possible too. Maybe not quite there yet, but in a year or two.
There's a few things. I won't overburden the session with more demos, but some of the models we've trained, we went through a rebrand recently, and through that rebrand, we used image generation tools to help us find our style. And then we went to South Africa and did a big photo shoot that mimicked that style. But our Supersides, some of our Superside employees and staff were the models in that shoot. We've also then just trained models of those people. So for example, what you just said is that your ad potentially in the future could be you wearing that.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
There's some crazy things that are possible.
How are consumers not going to run out of money? I feel like everyone's just going to buy everything. This is so cool.
So yeah, hopefully we've done what we set out to achieve, which is that we want to create a bunch. I think we did, what was it, 300 or something, 300. But yeah, I managed to get it up to, when I was doing some testing yesterday, I got to about 2,000 assets generated in the single hit, and then I think it crashed a few things in my end. So hopefully we've achieved this. So taking a customer brief, drafting some ideas, getting those assets out, and it all being on point, on brand, and usable for the client.
I mean, this is incredible. I don't really need to even say much. This alone, I mean, this demo just shows how transformative it is. And, kudos to you guys for being so on top of and so early in understanding the power of this, and then just making it the way of being and the way of working at your company. The one question I have for you, Fredrik, is, like, when we started talking, I mean, you mentioned a bunch of your clients, and obviously all the brand names that we recognize, but these types of tools, does it kind of expand who you might target to? Like, would you also work with smaller companies? Would you one day build your own software that other people can use? Like, how are you thinking about the future of the company now that, like, you guys have built all these cool things?
I mean, we're sort of just waiting for Unilever and Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble to call us up and replace their traditional agencies with us instead. We've primarily focused on enterprise technology companies. There's obviously a ton of use cases in enterprise technology, and those companies are the first to adopt AI, and we've been able to take this position and transform our company and learn a lot. But really, 90% of the economy is in I don't know, Middle America. The biggest opportunities are probably in companies that have product imagery, like what you saw here. You can just, from a simple image of the product, create static motion, live video. It's just incredible opportunities. And so probably next for us is sort of starting to venture into the into the traditional, very entrenched world of traditional advertising agencies.
Yeah, this is super cool. I mean, yeah, the demo was killer. I feel like this is one of the definitely very cutting edge kind of demos that we've seen. So as we get close to time, I think maybe a good question for us to end on is, what are you each most excited about over the next 12 months? Maybe Phil, we'll start with you.
Wow. Yeah. That's actually a really difficult question to answer. I think the thing I'm most excited about specifically is within the business is talent. So continuing to marry up like the highest level talent with the most cutting edge pipelines, I think is something really, really interesting for me. I've yet to see a signal that like when you put this sort of thing in the hands of like unbelievable people, that there isn't like a multiplier, and also like continuously maybe reshaping what it means to be doing this work. So like sometimes, that some of that executional work is being commoditized. I think that turns us into something a really exciting kind of company. And so like talent and the tools, and I think we can probably create some customer experiences that are just unprecedented compared to before. So, we work with some pretty interesting companies as the maturity of AI propagates into the market, the prevalence and the kind of willingness to use it becomes, just like more accepted, that we can then really start to flex our muscles and show what we can do. I actually think we're kind of slightly limited from the market wanting to do it. And now we're starting to get really great signals that people are coming and going, yeah, let's go. And I think we're going to, the remainder of 2025 and 2026 is the launch pad.
Amazing. Fredrik, final words from you.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm most excited about legal and procurement teams moving from, red light to green light. Like it's ready to go. We're ready to go. All these use cases are proven out. It's kind of pretty clear ROI. And we kind of continually ask our customers, do you want to do this at full price, or do you want to do this at half price, or do you want to do this at 10x quality or, 1x quality? And they're just like, hey, we're going to take the 1x quality and the full price, please, because legal and procurement hasn't been able to, get their ducks in a row. It's relatively easy actually to figure it out. And a lot of our enterprise companies in very kind of challenging spaces like cybersecurity, etc., they have been able to figure it out. So there's no reason to do so, but still around 50% of our clients are just haven't really moved from, they moved maybe to orange light a little bit, but they haven't moved fully to green light. And so we're waiting for the dam to break, regulatory speaking.
Love it. Yeah. And also, procurement and legal at Unilever and Coca-Cola, you've been, you heard this, what Fredrik said, they're ready for you. So yeah, that's really cool. And, transformative stuff. And congratulations to you both. I mean, this is incredible. It's really incredible how you guys have transformed the company, and very excited to see what you guys do over the next 12 months.
Amazing. Thanks a lot for having us.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of This New Way. If you like the content, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe so you can get notified when we post the next episode. See you next time.